listening to the Astral Hour. I'm your host, Astral Meadow. Join me as we take a glimpse into the mysterious. Welcome, everyone. Today I'm joined with my husband, Justin, and we're starting a special 3-part series all about flower essences, a gentle yet powerful form of vibrational medicine created by Dr. Edward Bach in the early 1900s. Over the next 3 episodes, we'll journey through all 38 of Bach's original flower remedies, exploring their emotional and spiritual significance. Each episode, we will focus on a different group of emotions, so by the end of this series, you'll have a deeper understanding of how these essences can support healing and balance on all levels of being. In part 1, today, we're going to explore some of Dr. Bach's work and his philosophy. Then we're going to dive into the first 2 emotional groups, the remedies for fear and the remedies for uncertainty. Welcome to the show.
Hey, I'm glad to be back. I'm always happy to be on the show with you and to be, again, I don't know if it's co-hosting or guest starring or whatever it may be, but I do love doing these episodes with you. And I'm happy to be doing this particular one or this series of ones because I'm a big believer in the flower remedies, and I've loved learning about them, but also we use them all the time in our house. I use them, you use them, the kids use them, and they're something that I, like I said, firmly believe in, and I'm happy to talk about. And there were some that we don't use all that often that I've enjoyed learning more about. And, you know, who knows, one of these days I'm sure I might need them. But they're a great tool to have, and I think that it's important for people to learn about them because it's a really great thing to have in your arsenal to help with day-to-day life as things come up. Because everything I've seen totally shows that they work quite well.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I'm happy to be here doing it.
Yeah. Well, thank you for showing up and joining me today.
Absolutely. So to begin, I suppose we need to talk a little bit about Dr. Bach and his journey and philosophy when it comes to healing and flower essences.
Yeah, certainly. And I will go ahead and just remind everyone that we have done an episode on flower essences before where we cover Bach's journey in a little bit more detail. And in that episode, we talk more about how the essences are made and some different ways to work with them. But I will do just kind of a light background on his journey and philosophy here as well. So Dr. Edward Bach was a British physician and homeopath who believed that emotional disharmony was the root cause of physical illness. After years of practicing conventional medicine, he began to notice that the patients he was working with had similar physical conditions, also had similar emotional patterns like fear, hopelessness, or anger. So after he spent, all this time working with more modern medicine, working with the logical mind, thinking of things more mechanically, the body as sort of that machine, which is how he's trained and how, many physicians are trained initially. As he got older, after he integrated all of that way of thinking, he started to lean more into his intuition. He wanted a more gentle approach to healing, less like this invasive kind of process. So something a little bit more natural. So he devoted himself to finding natural remedies that could gently restore harmony between mind, body, and soul. Following his intuition now, he begins to work with wildflowers, tuning into their energetic signatures. So by placing blooms in spring water and allowing sunlight to transfer their vibrational essence, he created a simple yet profound form of energy medicine. And he was able to kind of come to this place, I think, because of his history with homeopathy and all of the beautiful wisdom that he had gained from studying the life of Samuel Hahnemann and how he created his homeopathic remedies. And so Bach is like integrating all of these different approaches to medicine and healing and working with that and then making his own. Right? Tuning into like, let's make it more connected to nature. Let's make it gentle. Let's make it beautiful. Right? Let's make it simple.
Yeah.
So, he kind of went out on his own at this point after, learning all he could from the world and went more within, I think, to develop this new kind of form of wellness and healing and a new way of looking at, like the true cause of illness.
It follows very naturally with the study of homeopathy, taking the essence of all these different things that homeopathic medicine uses, and but this is specifically with the different wildflowers and things and how they work.
Right. So he's not using minerals and animals and,
right.
With homeopathy, there's thousands of remedies made from all sorts of things. And these are more specific to plants.
Yeah.
And we do have rock water, which is
right.
kind of a unique one. But
well, you mentioned that it could work in harmony with the mind, body, and soul. How do the essences work vibrationally on the emotional or soul level? How do they do that?
So similar to the way that we work with homeopathy, right? We're not looking at illness or symptoms as something that we're fighting, something that needs to be defeated. We are viewing it as a signal of imbalance between the personality and the soul. So instead of fighting, he starts to try to understand the symptoms. What are these symptoms trying to say? So his remedies were created specifically to harmonize that split between the personality and the soul, and to restore alignment between the human and the divine within us. And I pulled this quote. It's actually from Bach, but I got it from the book Bach Flower Remedies, Form and Function by Julian Bernard, which I will be referencing a lot on this podcast. And I will plug all of that into the description for people that want to go and kind of read up on my references more. But this was a quote that I thought really aligned with this question. So Bach says, "The action of these remedies is to raise our vibrations and open up our channels for the reception of our spiritual self, to flood our natures with the particular virtue we need. They cure not by attacking disease, but by flooding our bodies with the beautiful vibrations of our higher nature, in the presence of which disease melts as snow in the sunshine." So each of these essences carries a subtle frequency that is derived from the living intelligence of nature.
Wow.
So when we take a flower essence, we're attuning to a vibration that resonates with a specific emotional or spiritual state. The remedy gently starts to lift our vibration so that the qualities of the soul, things like peace, trust, courage, these start to reemerge. The essences act as catalysts for this deeper transformation, and not through suppressing like we have with some of the modern medicine. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to necessarily override the emotion. We're trying to infuse the inner landscape with light, allowing distortion to dissolve naturally. So what once feels heavy and overwhelming, chaotic, begins to start to harmonize. The personality regains this connection with the higher self. It starts to remember. And then in that place, the healing starts to unfold and restoration and alignment start to happen. So it's a process.
Yeah.
And when we're working with essences, we might have to dose them very frequently.
Yeah.
Over the course of time as we start to really open up. Sometimes it might be a one and done. You take it, you're great. You don't ever need it again, I suppose. Right. But when we're in really low places, we would dose these often.
Yeah.
And then slowly you'll need them less and less. And that's a good sign that shift, that realignment is happening, and it's like holding.
Yeah. That makes sense. The things that the flower essences here deal with seem more, and I know this isn't exactly true, but they seem more immediate on some level than maybe with homeopathic things, because it's like if you're low on energy or you're depressed, then you're working on that feeling right now.
Right.
And you would keep working with it until that lifts. Right. Until you start to feel energized, or you start to feel less sad or less scared, or whatever it is. And you still do that with sickness too, with homeopathic stuff, but it feels a little different, I guess, maybe because you're dealing with more emotional things. But
it is working at the emotional level, but like homeopathic remedies, there is a more acute expression, and then there's a deeper kind of constitutional layer. So we'll talk about rock rose in a minute, but for most people, rock rose is going to be an acute thing. Like something happens and they're terrified, and like that's the thing
right
in that moment, but that's not their general disposition. And so that's kind of the difference. So you can work with these more acutely, like you're going through an illness, so you might need a remedy because you're like in despair, but that's not your normal state. And then there's some that really match us more overall.
Yeah.
And that's where there's even more depth to the healing. I think if we can catch some of these emotional disturbances initially, like let's say something like shock or terror, if we can catch that and kind of nurture that right in the beginning, it doesn't carry over into a more chronic
Do you think
place.
that would play out as you wouldn't be as easy to shock or panic in the future if you regularly did it? Do you think it would lower that level of, if you were quick to panic, so to say,
right.
And you took that kind of regularly when you did panic, do you think that your quickness to panic would decrease? Is that kind of what you're saying?
Maybe. And we will talk about this with rock rose. I think that if that panic is to come up, it's going to be just based on that present moment and not a reflection of some past expression of it.
Right. Okay.
It'll be more rooted in the present.
Yeah.
Where when we're dealing with like a disposition, then it's that panic happens over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And it's actually a reaction of something usually from the past, a way we reacted then.
Sure.
And so now we're just falling back into that, where, it is natural to panic when things are happening. And so, yeah, we'll talk about that more with rock rose. But before jumping in, I just wanted to briefly go over how Bach organized his 38 remedies into 7 key emotional groups. These reflect the most common human struggles. All right. And when you buy the remedies, they'll be a certain color. And so there's 7 colors. Right? And we'll address the color as we go of what that theme is.
That's why when they're sitting around, they remind me of the Care Bears, because they've all got their own little color and their own little emotional name and support. And out of all of the healing modalities, they are the Care Bears of the alternative healing world.
Absolutely. What a perfect comparison.
They look just like them.
Yeah, and it feels that way too, like Care Bear stare, like you're just directing your intention right into that darkness. That's where you're like controlling the direction of the light in that moment.
This one's for grumpy, and this one's for sadness, and this one's for joy, and they each have their own little thing, and it's a perfect way to look at it, I've thought.
Right, for sure. So the different 7 emotional groups are fear, uncertainty, which are the two we'll go over today, insufficient interest in the present, loneliness, oversensitivity, despondency or despair, and overcare of others. So all of them can fall into one of these 7 categories. And we will break them up over the course of these 3 episodes.
Mm-hmm.
So, but for today, we're going to focus on fear and uncertainty. So the very first remedy that we're going to go into is rock rose, which we've already kind of talked about. This is the thing. It's so hard not to like jump right in because they're all so relevant.
Right. Well, and you have to use examples.
Right. So we've already touched on rock rose. So let's go into it a little bit. So rock rose is the flower of courage that's born in the heart of terror. It's called upon in moments of crisis, panic, sudden shock, when the personality is overwhelmed by elemental forces and the body is trembling under the weight of fear. So that tremble is kind of that key indicator that we might see physically, that it might be a good remedy. So this is a remedy for acute emergency states. When life feels as if it might break apart at any second, the soul cries out for light. So it's in shock. It's in terror, right? So while rock rose often does serve more situationally, more acutely, like we were kind of talking about, as it kind of does when it's in the rescue remedy, it also connects to a deeper resonance within certain people. So certain people, like this might be their actual constitution. These are individuals who live quietly under immense internal pressure with a hidden lifelong fear of life itself. So unlike Mimulus, which we'll talk about here in a minute, whose fears are known and they are named, rock rose works with the deeply buried fear that lies beyond words. It is the terror of existence itself, rooted in the subconscious, and it sometimes becomes activated by trauma or even the memory of birth. So when I was reading about it, it kept going back to, they can't name it. They don't know where it started. And a lot of times it's because it happened during the birth. Like maybe there was that fear of the baby might die or the mother might die, or there was just some terrifying. And what is terrifying to one might not be to another.
Right.
So they were saying sometimes like they might cut the umbilical cord too soon, and that might just terrify the child because they're not ready to breathe on their own.
Right.
And so it's so subconscious that it's sometimes hard for them to put their finger on, why am I so scared to live? And there was like this connection to like the rebirthing process is actually being kind of healing for these people to kind of go back and try to work through the root, and then also working with the flower with that kind of therapeutic support that comes with trying to find like, where did this start? So
for something like that, you would just work with the rock rose on a regular basis until it was able to get into the deep enough root of where the panic or terror originated.
Right.
And so if that did start from birth, it could be a long way back, but you would just want to work with it regularly until that kind of, until you start
to show the more positive qualities of rock rose. So all of these essences have sort of a shadow quality, and then they also have this transformative quality. And if you start to resonate with that transformative potential, that panic, turns to poise. So the individual might discover an inner core of calm awareness that actually remains steady even in danger. So what once felt unbearable might become sort of this initiation into deeper strength of the spirit.
Interesting.
So even though there's a lot of fear with rock rose, in its more transformative phase, it opens the way to spiritual courage. It is this fearless heart that radiates light through darkness. So I was reading about this, and it was comparing it to like the mother who's able to move a car because of the terror
Right.
that comes with like, oh, her child's going to be hurt. And so this is kind of that
It's superhuman.
yeah, right. It's showing the other polarity, right, of the beautiful side of Rock Rose that is actually really beneficial
Okay.
in that moment. But when we're stuck in sort of this more negative state, then it just becomes like this fear of being alive, and it's unnecessary to kind of be in that state, and it's not helpful.
Right.
So I'm going to talk just a little bit about the plan itself. We'll go into some of the doctrine of signatures just to kind of show, where do we get these keynotes from, these essences? Like, where is this information coming from? And it comes from many places. But one thing to consider are the signatures of the plants. So the doctrine of signatures shows us that the natural world is a mirror of divine intelligence. So plants embody symbolic clues to their healing function. So we look at shape, we look at color, movement, the environment that the plant's in, how they act in that environment, and things like that. And I'm not going to be able to go into every single detail here.
Sure. Yeah.
But there's a couple things I want to make note of with each remedy. And in Julian Bernard's book, it was just incredible the way that he went into every single one of the details about the plant. But with rock rose, the flower has this sort of delicate tissue-like petals. And he talks about how this sort of mirrors the sensitivity of those who carry this vibration. So it has evergreen leaves, which reminds us of endurance and the eternal spark that remains, even when the spirit trembles and is afraid. The golden yellow light of the blossoms, so we look at the color, right, reflects the radiance of the sun. So when we see yellow, we think of the sun, right? Mm-hmm. So this is connected to the archetype of strength, fortitude, and divine courage. So rock rose restores the inner fire that the fear has dimmed. So when we take this essence, which is, in resonance with this fear, it starts to lift that, and the light comes back, right? It starts to replace that fear with that courage. And I actually thought about Leo a lot when I was studying this one, because of all this sun, this light, this warmth, this courage, this bravery that comes when they're in their more positive state.
Yeah.
So this essence can be called upon after accidents, natural disasters, or sudden illness. So any event that shakes up the nervous system and leaves one frozen in helplessness. It helps those who use up their energy reserves too quickly, who live in an overstrained nervous system, or who collapse under intense stress. So the rock rose restores equilibrium after nervous exhaustion, turning self-centered fear into courage, even heroic courage, which we talked about with the car. So I feel like we covered most of that, but I'm just going to lightly go over the key notes that might show up as symptoms due to an energy block for rock rose. So things that might indicate it would be sudden paralyzing fear, panic, or hysteria, shock after accidents, near escapes, or frightening experiences, feeling frozen, unable to move or think clearly, overwhelming dread of death or catastrophe, physical trembling, cold sweats, or faintness from fear, reoccurring nightmares with feelings of horror. So this is a great remedy for night terrors. Mm-hmm. Overreacting to danger or imagining disaster. Mm. So the positive potential here in the harmonized state would be courage and presence of mind in emergencies, calm strength under extreme pressure, inner heroism and spiritual steadiness, and the ability to inspire and reassure others in crisis. So people like that work in like the ER and things like that, they can express this in like that higher form and really help patients that are just terrified, and like be sort of a grounding force for them, that rock for them.
Is this the same one you said, imagine disasters? Is this the one where if you're scared of your loved ones leaving? Okay.
No, that's going to be red chestnut.
Okay.
Red chestnut. But because they all resonate with fear, sometimes it is good to work through like differentiating this one versus that one. And sometimes you might take both, right? Okay. You might have terror, you know, at the thought of a loved one leaving, maybe based on a bad experience that happened in the past.
Yeah.
And so you might want to mix rock rose with red chestnut, which we'll talk about,
Okay.
you know, because maybe it's both. And maybe you'll sprinkle in some Star of Bethlehem for the trauma. So you can see, you know, mixing them is sometimes necessary versus just one at a time. But breaking them down one at a time kind of helps us focus and get to know them. So that's why I'm doing this today.
Sure. Yeah.
All right. So the next remedy that we're going to talk about in the fear category is mimulus. So mimulus is for those who live with everyday fears and worries, the kind that have a name that
Okay.
can be known. So mimulus brings courage and quiet confidence to sensitive souls who feel easily overwhelmed by life's demands. This essence is for those who shrink back from the world. They're afraid of illness, they're afraid of pain and misfortune, or even simple human interactions. So mimulus types experience fear in concrete, specific ways. So unlike Aspen, which we'll talk about here in a minute, whose fears are more vague and mysterious, mimulus fears have a very clear focal point. So they're afraid of the dark, they're afraid of being alone, they're afraid of illness,
Right.
loss, rejection, life itself. I mean, it goes on and on and on. Anything that you could name can fall in this category. And there's all sorts of phobias and all sorts of
Right. And they know exactly. They're scared of snakes. They're
Right,
scared of
right.
public speaking. Or
right.
yep.
So these types tend to carry their worries silently. They rarely voice them, and they prefer to endure all of this with sort of this quiet tension. So beneath their timidity lies this delicate constitution, one that reacts strongly to sound, light, conflict, or emotional intensity. So they're very sensitive individuals. And we'll, talk about the plant signature here because it definitely comes up in that as well. They are gentle, they are thoughtful people, and very perceptive. But their sensitivity can make life feel too sharp. It's too loud. It's too much. Their nervous systems are just on alert. They blush easily. They might stammer when they're nervous, and they may withdraw to avoid confrontation. So their shyness kind of masks a deep longing to engage with life more freely without fear controlling the expression. So mimulus grows along streams in damp places where water moves gently over rocks. Its freckled blossoms resemble a monkey's face. So it actually is sometimes called monkey flower. So this is a symbol of the playful courage that lies hidden within the Remedies lesson. Like the plant that thrives at the water's edge, mimulus teaches emotional resilience and how to remain rooted amid the flowing, sometimes overwhelming currents of feeling. So I actually really enjoyed learning about the plant more and how it's like there's all this fear, but then there's a lot of like bravery with this plant. Like there's sometimes where the plant's like fully submerged underwater.
Really?
And it's like gasping for air, right? But it is actually very strong and resilient overall. Like something that might kill a different plant, this one's able to kind of hold itself and
That's so fascinating.
right, develop a certain kind of resilience. So some of the keynotes for mimulus are the fear of illness, pain, accidents, poverty, darkness, animals, or being alone, fear of people, crowds, or public speaking, nervousness, timidity, and the avoidance of confrontation. So they don't really love being questioned. So if someone comes in for consult, even though they can name their fear, sometimes their fear might actually be being questioned. Yeah. So you have to be kind of gentle when working with these. Embarrassment or hesitation in expressing their true feelings, blushing easily, voices trembling, or physical tension from anxiety. Overly cautious or withdrawn nature. They prefer the safety of routine. Quiet endurance of fear rather than seeking help. So the positive potential here when they're in a more harmonized state is going to be gentle courage and quiet strength. Confidence in facing life's challenges without retreat. calm composure and openness towards people and experiences, and the ability to act naturally despite these lingering fears. So it's really about, the courage that comes out of understanding one's own sensitivity. And I feel like when I was studying this one, there was this connection to like the intellect. Once they can process it more intellectually, they're able to kind of work through it and let it go.
Yeah.
And we work with Mimulus a lot. I've taken this one a lot. Iris takes it a lot. And so it's been very helpful for like, I'm going to be teaching and I'm really nervous and
Right. Or you took some just this week because our kids were sick and you were scared of getting sick as well.
Yeah.
And so to battle that specific fear,
Right.
I gave you some Mimulus so that you could work on that fear of catching the sickness.
Right. And that's where it's nice to have a partner that knows a little bit about the remedies too. Because sometimes like when you're in that mode, you're not thinking like, oh my God, I just need some Mimulus.
Right.
Like you're just like in fear mode. So it's nice to have another person that's saying, okay, I'm going to put some Mimulus in this girl's water because
she is scared.
I know that she's afraid of X.
Right. And so we need to work on that. And like you said, it's one of the multiple remedies that we give to Iris each night to help her with her fear of sleeping in her room alone or bad dreams.
Right.
And while you were talking, I had a thought. Iris has been taking the Mimulus and Aspen and a couple of these now for several weeks or a few months now at this point. And all of a sudden, out of nowhere, she was fine with sleeping in her room all night and the fear kind of went away. And that made me think maybe that was getting into her constitutional.
Right.
And it was helping build her courage.
Right.
And so it wasn't so much a nightly thing. It was actually getting deeper, and she was becoming more courageous just overall.
Right.
After the repeated use of it.
Right.
And so now she's just more brave, period.
Right. And you notice as well, when we were talking about rock rose, I really thought a lot about aconite because aconite is like the homeopathic remedy for shock, right? And just things that come on it kind of out of nowhere, and there's a lot of fear. And so Iris, for a long time, like that was the remedy I was pulling from the first aid kit because she would fall. And because she was in so much shock, I couldn't even fully understand like what was hurting. It was just, she just so
got
scared.
Yeah.
And I do feel like, instead of just pulling the aconite out every time that happens, this is kind of a better approach of like working with that deeper emotion and really helping clear that. So,
right. That's what I was thinking about. If you worked with it enough, maybe the quickness to panic and fear when something like that happens would go down.
it would be a more natural expression of it.
Right. And she still might panic, but she wouldn't be as quick and it wouldn't be maybe as overwhelming. She'd be able to process it better because it's
and
not
intellectualized.
as deep. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's really fascinating to watch that. And that, like I said, the Mimulus thought of that she's gotten braver just overall, because I've noticed other things here, in the past few weeks where she's just braver than she has been.
Right.
And it may be this repeated use of the Mimulus and the Aspen working on her at a deep level.
And supporting her in those moments of fear.
Right.
So she's not just like staying in the fearful state for so long.
Yeah.
She feels it. We help her address it.
And it shows itself during the day and play. It's not just at night with bad dreams or something. It shows itself in other areas where she's just become more courageous overall.
Absolutely.
It's really cool, actually.
Yeah, and I did just suggest the combination of rock rose and Mimulus to a friend who was having night terrors. So I gave the rock rose for the terror, or suggested the rock rose for the terror, and the Mimulus for the fear of going to sleep because of the terror. And so you see how it was like both were kind of indicated at that point, because now he's afraid to sleep.
Yeah.
Because of that. And so they work beautifully together.
Yeah.
In that moment, if it is something that, if you're afraid every single night because you have night terrors, Mimulus is going to be,
because that's a specific thing.
The fear of going to sleep, the fear of nightmares.
Yeah.
All right, the next one we're going to talk about in the fear category is cherry plum. And this one's a little bit more intense and is more indicated for the fear of losing control. So, cherry plum is for the moment when someone is kind of standing at the edge of reason and they're afraid that the mind may give way. So, it's a remedy for those who fear their own impulses, who feel a pressure building within that might erupt at any moment. They hold tight to control, terrified that if they let go, something terrible will happen. So the picture here is like a ticking time bomb inside them, and they're trying so hard to maintain composure because they're afraid that they might blow up, right? So this is kind of a breaking point essence. It's also in Rescue Remedy. The tension here is sort of before that release, the fear that comes before surrender. So the person in need of cherry plum is often exhausted from restraint. Their emotions have been dammed up behind the walls of composure, and they fear that they might go crazy. They're afraid of losing their temper. They're afraid of doing harm to themselves or others. So that suppressed emotion creates this tension, which could lead to violence. And the reason they're clinging to control so hard is because they cannot imagine what lies beyond it.
It's like the old phrase, "I'm at the end of my rope." Like, you hear it with like parents dealing with kids or something. It's just like, I'm about to lose it.
Yeah,
I'm at the end of my rope here today. Like, the next thing is going to do it. That would be a good time to take some cherry plum.
Mm-hmm.
That's good to know. As a fellow parent who has been there at the end of that rope.
Right. Right. And so it can show up more acutely, and then in some cases it might be more chronic as someone feels this all the, they're like.
And that's just a mild example. There's certainly more where it could be a lot more dangerous, but.
Right. So it's definitely one to consider with some of those deeper, darker feelings that people are trying to suppress.
Yeah.
This is going to help support you to like work through them, because suppression never heals.
Right. No.
So the plant signature here, the cherry plum is one of the earliest trees to bloom. So it flowers in the raw chill of late winter before the leaves appear. Its white blossoms open on bare, dark branches. Light emerging from darkness. So that's the theme here. Light emerging from darkness. So this is mirroring the soul's struggle in this cherry plum state, where there's this immense pressure built up. But this occurs before the release of new life. So the tree's smooth, speckled bark and lack of clear structure speak to an instability of form. So an energy in flux, seeking to contain immense creative and emotional forces. It's somewhat of an unstable species, so it's difficult to graft or reproduce identically. And this reflects how this essence works with individuals under psychic or emotional strain on the verge of transformation. So cherry plum teaches that the tension between breakdown and breakthrough, like that space in between, is sacred. It parallels the instability of early spring itself, a time when nature pushes through darkness into renewal. So I think it's beautiful to kind of keep in mind that in those intense moments that there is a light, and to remember that there is a light. And sometimes it's like the darkest right before the dawn. And so I think that can kind of bring hope in times of what seems like just great turbulence. So some of the symptoms to look for to maybe kind of notice the energy block would be inner tension and pressure at the breaking point, the fear of insanity or snapping, losing one's mind, terror of impulsive acts, violence, or self-destruction, struggles to maintain composure, emotions tightly suppressed, sudden explosive outburst or hysteria after restraint, the sense of chaos within, unable to trust one's inner stability, nervous collapse or breakdown from over control. So in the more positive state, When one has worked through some of these blocks, there might be a calm self-control that's rooted in trust and inner order, an emotional release without fear or repression, a clear mind even under stress, confidence in one's own sanity and inner strength, the ability to face powerful emotions when overwhelmed. So it really comes, there's a lot more confidence once we work through this. So like, wow, we went through that dark night and here we are. Look how strong we are. You know, we can do tough things. So, you know, this essence really helps restore trust in one's own inner strength. It really helps to reconnect the individual to a powerful spiritual undercurrent that lies within them. So from this chaos emerges this beautiful composure. From breakdown comes breakthrough. So Cherry Plum helps one move through the darkness without shattering, finding courage within that deep place of surrender. So the person learns to trust their emotions as these sacred messengers rather than threats, discovering serenity within this openness. So it's especially supportive during times in our life where there's some deep spiritual crisis or rapid transformation that's happening. And it can help integrate subconscious material and allow light to enter those places where we once were clinging to fear. So the next remedy we're going to talk about is aspen. Aspen is more for those unknown fears, those vague anxieties, and that sense that something very unclear might happen in the potential future. So with aspen, there's more of this quiet trembling that comes with the sense that something that we cannot name might.
There's just something in the unknown darkness.
Right.
I don't know what it is.
So this is for those who have this sort of feeling that there might be this something strange that might occur, haunting uneasiness, as if danger or darkness is near, yet it's invisible. So there's no obvious reason for their fear.
Yeah.
It's a subtle sense of anxiety, like this energy is just hovering right beyond our perspective or our perception. And so it can be more common with those who are kind of psychically open and psychically sensitive because they're aware of those invisible kind of dimensions.
Right. It feels more dealing with like supernatural or paranormal, ghosts or monsters or just those kinds of things that we don't deal with on a normal basis in the visible world. Like you're scared of something being out there, but it's not like you're not scared of a person walking up. Like you're scared of what sort of creature could be out there, what sort of dark entity, or it's something like that.
Right. And so this state reflects a heightened sensitivity to the unseen world. The individual might pick up on the atmosphere, emotions, or spiritual currents, but misinterpret them as a threat rather than guidance. So night might bring an increase of restlessness, dreams, or sudden waves of apprehension that seem to arise from out of nowhere. The mind cannot easily identify the source for the fear. In that space of not being able to identify it, the imagination comes in and starts to fill in the blanks. Well, what was that? What is that?
Right.
I can't see it. What might be beyond the veil?
What was that thud? What was out there?
Right. So the nervous system starts to overreact. And they might just expect, okay, something terrible might happen at any moment, even when everything's calm and they're safe. Right. And I definitely have taken this remedy many times because I am very psychically sensitive. I do pick up on other people's fears. And so I actually have a prayer that is, if this is not mine, I release it. And I think that this remedy helps me a lot because I'm just such a sponge. And so sometimes I might feel afraid, but it's not actually my fear.
Right.
And so this remedy is really great for, I'm having anxiety, but everybody's healthy. Everything's great. Where did this come from? I'm going to reach for aspen immediately because I know I feel that so deeply in my being. So
yeah. This is another one that we give to Iris, and it's great for children, who are scared in the nighttime because they don't know what's out there, and their imagination runs wild. And Iris can too, but it's definitely very prevalent for young kids.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And when kids can't quite name what it is.
Yeah.
So with the plant signature, if you look at the aspen tree, it stands tall and slender. It has leaves that seem to quiver,
Really?
even at the faintest breeze.
That's wild.
This constant motion mirrors the emotional sensitivity of those who need this essence. So it's easily stirred by unseen currents. Its leaves shimmer with both light and sound, which can sometimes connect to sort of this invisible undercurrent. This movement can reflect the state of an open nervous system, finely tuned to subtle frequencies. But through it all, aspen's trunk remains upright and steady, reminding us that sensitivity need not equal instability. And I think when I was reading about this, if you put your back to the tree, like they were talking about how you can just feel this like this shaking within the tree.
Really?
Like it's easily kind of moved.
Spooked.
Right. Even though it is deep rooted in the earth. And, reaching towards the sky, aspen teaches the balance between receptivity and grounding. It shows us how to remain centered while attuned to the unseen, to let the winds of the world move through us without fear. And I'm going to read over some of the keynotes that I pulled. So there's this overall, like, something terrible is going to happen, although we cannot tell what. Sudden anxiety or panic attacks, creeping sensation of fear as if bewitched or overshadowed, self-deception and delusional imagings, overreactive imagination leading to irrational dread, fascination or fear concerning unseen forces, the occult or superstition, fear of invisible powers, punishment or persecution, nightmares, waking in terror, unable to return to sleep, fearful thoughts about death, darkness, or religious themes. So these are the people that are like scared of the cracked mirror, potentially.
Right.
They don't know what's going to happen. They saw a cracked mirror. What does that mean?
Or the black cat.
Absolutely. And so sometimes those superstitions get so dark, it makes them very paranoid. So in a more positive, harmonious state, this remedy can help bring a calm inner confidence and spiritual trust. Awareness of unseen dimensions without the fear. Steady intuition guided by higher understanding. And courage to face the unknown with serenity and faith of like, I don't know, but it's sort of trusting in the process of it all.
But I'm going to be okay.
Yeah, right. But I'm going to be okay. All right. The next and last remedy in the fear series is going to be red chestnut. So red chestnut speaks to those whose deep love becomes entwined with anxiety for others. So this is the one you were kind of bringing up, like fear for others. This is it. So in this state, the heart is so open that it struggles to distinguish between compassion and worry. The person feels an almost constant concern for their children, their partner, their close friends. They might imagine harm, illness, or misfortune happening even when there's no reason for it.
Right.
They might say things like, I just have a bad feeling. I can't stop worrying that something's going to happen to them. And this creates a subtle energetic cord that binds both soul, intention, and unconsciously projecting fear rather than support. So red chestnut is the remedy for those who love deeply but have forgotten that love and control are not the same. So beneath their fear lies a devotion, the desire to protect and shield others. Yet this over-identification can deplete their energy and blur the boundary between self and others.
Yeah, I can struggle with this sometimes when you or the kids are out somewhere and I haven't heard in a while, and your imagination gets going. And you're like, oh my God, they've been in a car wreck or something terrible's happened, and if you're not careful, then that feeling can overwhelm you and just start to totally control your mind, and thoughts and feelings. And so that would be a perfect time to take some red chestnut and help calm some of those intense feelings and those fears.
Absolutely. So I pulled this from Bernard's book, but he was going into the story where Bach was cut, and one of his friends, Nora, was there, and like she went into like this terribly afraid state for him, and he was just like, oh my gosh, and he could almost see in that moment how these states, connect us with other people. And so it's in the story, it led them to conclude that we are all susceptible to the influences of other people's thoughts, for good or ill. So negative thoughts, even if unexpressed, have a powerful impact. Thoughts for safety, health, and success, and likewise. So it said in the book, it's as if in the past something did indeed happen, right, to someone. And so because in the past something bad happened, there's that fear that it might happen again. So red chestnut is a renewed response to that traumatic event, and these people's fear is partly based on the memory of something bad that has happened. And so now, maybe they did have a loved one that died in a car wreck, and now every time someone they love gets in a car, that memory is there.
Do you think that can go into past lives as well?
I do think, because these work vibrationally, that they can heal it,
because I feel like sometimes it's almost irrational how much that someone can be scared of something in this lifetime, and maybe they haven't experienced someone being in a car wreck and dying explicitly, but maybe in some other life they have, or maybe it's coming from some other place that we aren't fully consciously aware of. And so, because it makes sense if you'd experienced a car wreck when you were younger, that you would be scared of it now.
Right.
But sometimes you almost, like I said, it's almost irrational how much you could be scared of something happening or drowning or something when it potentially happened in a past life.
Right.
And you've just carried that fear with you.
Yeah, I do think that these remedies work on all of the bodies, which we talked about in our episode on the 7 bodies. So I think if there was a fear that's carried over from a past life, that it can help with that as well. And then that might even be the aspen, because we don't know.
Right.
We have this fear of others, but we don't know where it comes from. So aspen might go well with the red chestnut in that moment. So some of the symptoms due to the energy block might be constant worry about family, friends, or those close. Fear that harm will come to others, anticipates the worst. Overprotectiveness or intrusive concern. Emotional over-identification with another's pain or distress. Difficulty separating one's own feelings from others. Nervous exhaustion from continuous concern for others. Unconsciously transmitting fear or tension to loved ones. Attempts to control situations to prevent imagined danger. So the positive potential here in the more harmonized state would be loving detachment and calm trust in others' resilience. Supportive presence without fear or interference. Clear boundaries, balanced empathy, and confident that life's protective forces are at work for everyone. And I think this was one of the ones I read about. It's really good to kind of have maybe a prayer or an image or something. And I do this with you guys when you leave. I imagine little angel wings around the car, and I do that, and then I don't need the red chestnut, because in that moment I've kind of released that control.
Right.
Because I'm like, now they're out of my hands.
Yep.
But I'm not going to sit here and freak myself out for 3 hours because you guys left the house.
Right. Because that's no good.
So it is sometimes nice to have like a mantra or a visualization for this one as well. All right. So we went through the first round of the remedies connected to fear. And now we're going to go into the remedies for uncertainty. So I meant to say this. The fear remedies have the orange label.
Right.
And the remedies for uncertainty have yellow labels. So the first remedy in this section is going to be Serato. And the theme here is trusting the inner wisdom in the voice of intuition. So in the Serato state, this is a person who possesses strong intuition, yet they struggle to trust it. They're constantly second guessing themselves. They're seeking advice from others. They need reassurance or confirmation from others before making even the smallest decisions. This state often arises when a person has lost faith in their own inner compass. They know what feels right, but they override it, believing that others must know better. The result is confusion, hesitation, and a subtle erosion of their own confidence. People that are in a Serato state might change their minds frequently, mimic the opinions of other people that they admire, or ask, I don't know, what do you think I should do? Mm-hmm. So even after they have already kind of sensed into their own truth, they might still kind of question that. So the connection that they had with their soul's inner guidance has dissipated. It has grown faint beneath the noise of external voices and needing external validation. In its unbalanced form, Serato reveals the insecurity that comes from disconnection with one's own higher self. So these individuals often carry great intelligence and sensitivity, but they doubt their own perceptions. They might have grown up in environments where their instincts were dismissed, which has now led them to seeking authority and truth outside of themselves.
Yeah.
So, when in a more harmonized state and, they start to take the remedy, they start to work through this, Serato restores faith in the inner voice. So the mind quiets and the heart opens. The intuition once again becomes the primary guide. And the person learns to pause before seeking opinions and to listen inwardly first, to honor that knowledge that's coming from within them and to trust it. So some of the key symptoms due to the energy block would be doubts personal decisions immediately after making them. They're always asking others what to do because they're unable to trust their own inner guidance. They change course easily based on others' opinions, mimic others' behaviors or beliefs to feel secure, frequently are influenced by authority figures or trends. Mental confusion can come about from too much external input. They might have a weak sense of individuality and uncertain about personal truth. But once they start to present the more positive potential here, this will lead to more confidence in their own intuition, in their own inner wisdom, clarity in thought and decision making, calm assurance and self-trust amid differing opinions, and the ability to listen to others without losing their own voice.
I guess we all have moments that we fall into all of these.
Oh yeah. So. I think that really it's the journey of the soul. I think that there's times where we might need every single one of these. Well, not all at once, but at different points in our life. Yeah,
I've had moments with all of these as I go through, and some a lot more than others, and some just from time to time, but I think we do all resonate with these things. And I guess that's the reason he was able to identify them.
Right, because he actually had all of these states at some point in his life.
Yeah.
And, he worked with patients that were going through these states and needed support. And sometimes they're very fleeting and maybe you don't need a remedy.
Yeah.
Because you're pretty strong in that area. So that little identity crisis might not turn into something that's limiting you, but for some people, they might be more susceptible in that area and they really need more support than some of us that just casually might hit a place where we're like, I don't know, I feel uncertain. I'm going to go get 100 opinions and do none of them because I don't trust myself or you.
Yeah.
So, all right. The next one in this category is scleranthus. So the core emotion with this one would be indecision, inner conflict, and wavering between two choices. So this one kind of reminds me of Serato.
Yeah, it is similar.
Yeah, it's really hard for me to differentiate sometimes between these two. The scleranthus state is connected with those who live caught between this or that, and they're constantly seesawing between opposing directions. So one moment they feel very certain, and the next they're unsure. This indecision can touch even the smallest choices. So what to eat? What direction should I take? What should I say here? And beneath the surface lies an unsteady inner rhythm, a nervous shifting of energies that prevents clarity.
Do you think the difference is this one you just can't decide, and the other one you don't think you're capable of deciding? Like,
Right,
I'm not good enough to decide.
Right. And this one's like,
you decide for me, and this one you're like, I just don't know. Should we have Mexican or Chinese tonight? I could go either way.
Right. Right. They could go either way. So this person may feel like they have two selves pulling in different directions, each equally convincing.
Right.
So emotionally, this can bring fatigue, irritability, and a sense of inner chaos over time, as if life's current is constantly changing course. So they often keep their uncertainty private, unlike Serato, who wants to go and ask for support, turning the decision over and over again in silence, trying to reason their way to truth rather than feel it. And this leads to frustration and a deep longing for stability. In an unbalanced state, Scleranthus reveals the struggle between mind and intuition. The person wants to move forward, but fears choosing wrongly. And this continual back and forth disperses their energy, and it makes it difficult to progress. Mood swings are common, highs followed by lows, enthusiasm followed by doubt. Physical vitality may mirror this pattern with fluctuations in energy or coordination. So the inner world feels like a pendulum that cannot rest. This state reflects a disconnection from the center, the point within where the balance of truth resides. When harmonized, Scleranthus brings poise, steadiness, and quiet confidence, and the pendulum slows. So decisions arise naturally and not from mental calculations, but from just being more in alignment. So the person learns to feel truth rather than debate it, and there's a return to rhythm. So there's a more graceful flow, between the intuition and the mind and the heart, and they start to kind of all work together. So in a positive state, Scleranthus restores trust in one's own natural timing. Choices unfold more organically, guided by an inner compass that no longer swings wildly, but points clearly towards what feels right. Some keynotes would be difficulty choosing between options, even trivial ones, rapid mood swings, laughter to tears, confidence to doubt, inner restlessness and lack of clear direction, alternating physical symptoms, hot, cold, energy fatigue, inconsistency in opinions, plans, and emotions, tendency towards isolation while struggling internally to decide, and feeling scattered, unable to find inner equilibrium. Positive potential would be inner balance and centeredness, steady decision making, guided by their intuition, clear sense of direction and purpose, emotional and mental stability, even in changeable circumstances. All right. The next one is Genshin. So the theme here, or the core emotion, will be discouragement, doubt, and loss of confidence after disappointment.
We've all been there.
So Genshin is the remedy for those who feel disheartened when things do not go as planned. It speaks to the tender moments when effort meets resistance, progress slows, or life delivers a setback that shakes our faith. Those in this state are often sincere seekers and hard workers, yet they easily lose heart when obstacles arise. So a small failure can feel like a personal defeat. They may say things like, "What's the use?" Or, "I thought I was on the right path, but maybe I'm wrong." Genshin is not for despair, but for quiet discouragement that dims the light of perseverance. It's for those who see the lesson before them, but momentarily lose trust in that process, which I think all of us
Right.
fall into this state sometimes and get a little disheartened, like, oh my God.
Is that what life's not fair?
Right. And this is embracing those setbacks.
Yeah.
So in the unbalanced state, doubt overshadows faith. The person's vision contracts. They focus on the obstacle rather than the larger pattern that's unfolding. They may start projects or spiritual practices with great enthusiasm, but then abandon them when the results are not immediate. This energy often carries a rational, questioning mind, which can be both a gift and a burden. It wants proof before belief, forgetting that true progress requires both reason and trust. This skepticism, while honest, can block the flow of inner confidence. When harmonized, Jinshin restores faith in the unseen order of life. Setbacks are no longer seen as failures, but as invitations to deeper understanding and resilience. The person learns to meet obstacles with calm assurance, knowing that every delay or detour has a purpose. And this is, the dance of life, right? I'm always saying this with the records, like one step forward, two steps back, but life's a dance. And so, it is really hard not to get discouraged with setbacks and to think, like maybe I should just give up.
Right.
But I think deep down we know what we're supposed to do. And so we're like, actually, I think we got to just keep going. We got to keep dancing. But it is nice to have some support at times when we're in that place and we are not trusting in that those setbacks are also a part of the beauty of the journey itself.
Yeah, that's definitely something we all have had to deal with before.
Yeah. So symptoms due to energy block would be easily disheartened by obstacles or disappointments, tendency to see the negative side of events, feels progress is constantly blocked or undermined, difficulty regaining optimism after failure or illness, loss of confidence in self or purpose, withdrawal and gloom following even minor setbacks, chronic pessimism, and reluctance to try again. So the positive potential would be steadfast perseverance and quiet faith in ultimate success, the ability to view setbacks as temporary learning experiences, resilient optimism grounded in trust and purpose, and inner strength to continue calmly despite difficulties. All right, the next one we're going to get into is Gorse. So Gorse's core emotion is this deep discouragement, resignation, and loss of faith after long struggle. Gorse is the remedy for those who feel they've reached the end of hope.
Yeah.
So this state arises when the spirit has endured disappointment for so long that it no longer expects change.
This is never going to get better.
Yeah.
It's always going to be this way.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to be terrible.
Very, very Eeyore.
No one's ever going to invite me.
Oh my God, we know the person, right? We know the person that needs this, but we're not going to say it.
Oh, yeah. I'm always going to be sick. Nothing's ever going to be good again.
Right.
Yep.
The person may outwardly continue daily life, but inwardly they have given up. A quiet surrender to fate. They often speak in tones of just exhaustion, saying things like, well, what's the point? And I've tried it. I mean, I can't even do this without doing the Eeyore. Nothing works. So, unlike the questioning doubt of Jinshin, Gorse carries a deeper shade of hopelessness. It's not disbelief in effort, but impossibility itself.
Yeah.
So this is the essence for people who've grown weary from illness, hardship, or emotional pain, and they have come to believe that healing is no longer possible, and their light feels dim. They feel cut off from the hope of renewal. So, with Gorse, this can kind of come up after just a long, illness, or just, when it just really feels like why am I even trying? And they kind of just stop even trying to be healthy. They're like, there's no point. I'm just going to eat the crappy food. It's like, it's kind of a really challenging place to be in. So it reflects just this sort of collapse of faith.
Mm-hmm.
the person may have been disappointed repeatedly or endured chronic suffering, and this has slowly over time eroded their trust in life. So their energy field feels very dull, heavy, as if the life force itself has withdrawn. So even encouragement from others is met with resistance. But deep down, the spark of faith does remain. It's buried beneath sorrow and exhaustion, but it's
Yeah.
there, right? And there's potential for the return of light. So the transformation here is, when harmonized, Gorse restores the golden light of faith. The heart begins to feel warmth again. The soul remembers that life continually renews itself. Hope returns, not as blind optimism, but as a quiet certainty that healing and change are actually possible. So in the positive Gorse state, the person, that dimness behind their eyes will start to have that luster back, that shine again. They slowly start to regain their strength. There is more openness to receive help. They might give themselves more grace in moments of, just daily issues, instead of seeing them as like huge setbacks, to be like, well, this is part of the process. Gratitude gently starts to replace this feeling of despair. So the soul lesson would be, Gorse is teaching that even in darkness, the seed of renewal is still alive. It invites surrender, not in defeat, but in faith, to release hopelessness and open up to the possibility of grace. So the essence helps us recognize that spiritual vitality does not depend on outer conditions. The light of the higher self continues to shine even when we cannot see it. And through Gorse, the heart learns to have hope again. So I kind of see this as like, that light, like almost in like Lord of the Rings, like when all hope is lost, and it feels really dramatic with Gorse. It feels like that.
Yeah.
Like all lights have went out, but it's like Gorse is that light within us that is maintained through even those darkest moments. And if we're still alive, there's still potential.
Right.
Right. So some key symptoms, or keynotes would be: feels like life has lost its purpose or meaning. They might give up trying after long struggle or illness. Accept suffering as inevitable, resignation rather than emotion. Pale, weary expression. Voice of quiet defeat. Refuses further help, believing nothing will change. Depression that feels heavy, empty, and beyond effort. Loss of faith in life's regenerative forces. The positive potential, or the more harmonized state, it's going to be renewed hope and spiritual light even in darkness, inner faith and healing and renewal, quiet endurance and perseverance with trust in the future, radiates hope to others through calm certainty. All right, now we're going to go into Hornbeam, which you and I love taking Hornbeam.
We use it very, very regularly.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And it's one of the first ones that I could actively see and feel a difference.
Right, immediately.
Yeah. And early on, we used it, and then I was like, oh my God, I can totally tell that I've done something here.
Right. So the core emotion for Hornbeam is weariness, mental fatigue, and doubt in one's own ability to meet the day's demands. And so many of us fall into the state because in this,
oh my God, yeah,
the world that we live in, I mean, it's like we're so stretched and we just feel like, how the heck are we going to accomplish this ginormous list and like also go to the store and like also brush our teeth? And it's just hard. There's so many things, and it can start to weigh on us. So Hornbeam is for those who wake up feeling tired before the day's even begun. Though there is no true exhaustion of the body, the mind feels heavy, uninspired, and dull. The person may describe it as Monday morning fatigue, a lack of spark or motivation to engage with daily life. This state often appears after long periods of mental work, stress, or over responsibility, which in this world, this day and age, I feel like that state is just what we're expected to maintain.
Yeah.
And that's why this is so helpful to keep
It's just resting state.
on you. Yeah. So it's not depression, it's depletion.
Right.
It's the sense that one's own inner spring has run dry. The tasks of life feel overwhelming. Though once completed, the person realizes that they have more strength than they believe. Hornbeam addresses the imbalance between thought and vitality, where energy becomes trapped in mental strain instead of flowing through the body freely. So in an unbalanced state, Hornbeam reveals disconnection from the rhythm of life, which society puts us there. You know, even when we want to have that sometimes. The person may postpone responsibilities, seek distractions, or rely on stimulants for motivation. The world feels colorless and repetitive, as if the vitality of spirit has faded into routine. This fatigue often masks a deeper spiritual stagnation, the loss of inspiration or joy in purposeful action. The individual doubts their own ability to keep going, feeling as though they have used up all their reserves. So Hornbeam teaches that true renewal does not come from rest alone, but from reawakening to the flow of the inner life force.
Yeah, the bottle on it, the little phrase says procrastinate less.
Right.
But it's interesting, but as you listen to those traits, because it's not that you're procrastinating, it's that you're so weary to get everything done. But when we take some in the morning, you could put just a little in your coffee. Both of us find that we accomplish a lot more, really almost without trying. And it's just that you've got that motivation to just do things, and you feel driven.
Right.
You've got the drive to do it, and you're not just like slumping back down in between tasks like, oh my God, I'm so tired, and wind up 30 minutes slips away and you don't get as much done. You find that you have this drive to just keep going and to just push on.
Right.
And it's not that you're overworking yourself. It's that you're just not as worn out in between tasks and letting it slow you down.
Right. It's like instead of just focusing on the tasks themselves, it's like, well, this is actually a really good day. I have to get some things done.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to fall into despair and exhaustion yet because I haven't actually got out of bed. So a lot of times it is that you're waking up kind of already weary because you know how much you got to do.
And oftentimes we'll discover later in the day, be like, oh, we've gotten so much done. And be like, oh yeah,
and it feels good.
We had Hornbeam this morning.
Yeah, it feels good though.
We've actually accomplished a lot today. Yeah, it's a fantastic feeling. It's wonderful.
Yeah. And so definitely Hornbeam is one for our times.
That's the truth.
So some keynotes for Hornbeam would be mental or physical tiredness at the thought of work or responsibilities, feeling burdened by daily duties, lack of enthusiasm or drive to begin tasks, hesitation, doubt, or wavering before starting necessary actions, sense of being drained or mentally sluggish, repeated postponement of obligations. So the positive potential in the more harmonized state would be renewed energy and vitality for daily responsibilities, motivation and clarity to begin and complete tasks, strength of mind to overcome weariness, enjoyment and engagement in everyday work and activities.
Yeah. It's a wonderful thing.
It really is such a good one. And so the last one we're going to talk about today is wild oat. So the core emotion for wild oat is uncertainty about life's path. There might be a restlessness or frustration from feeling unfulfilled despite the ability or the opportunities that surround you. So wild oat is for those that are standing at a crossroads, sensing that they are meant for something very meaningful. They're just not quite sure what that is. So these people are often really gifted and curious, and they're capable of so much that their energy feels scattered across too many paths because they're like, oh my God, I could be this, I could be that, I could do this, I could do this. And, this is their greatness, and it also puts them in this sort of detriment of having too many options.
I need to take this more often.
Yeah.
I struggle with this for sure.
Yeah. So in this state, the soul longs for purpose, for work that feels satisfying, on that soul level. The person may feel as if life is passing them by without clear direction, or that success in worldly terms hasn't brought inner fulfillment. Wild oat helps align the outer life with the soul's inner knowing, and it restores connection to purpose. It brings clarity, focus, and peace to the seeking heart. And I think I read with this one that Bach was saying, when it's hard to focus on which remedy that they need, that this is sometimes the remedy, like to take this every day for a week and then see if there's something else that comes forward.
Yeah.
As far as like direction. So in its unbalanced form, the wild oat individual might drift from one experience to another without commitment, chasing a variety of things, yet finding no lasting joy in any of them. The restlessness is not failure. It's the soul's yearning to live life authentically. So this essence helps reveal that confusion is not a void, but a sacred pause that happens before revelation. Uncertainty comes when the mind is trying to decide what only the heart can know. So when harmonized, wild oat brings purpose and joyful discipline. The person begins to feel guided by the inner compass, making choices that nourish them rather than deplete them. They realize that fulfillment arises not from doing everything, but from doing what is actually in alignment with their true purpose. So once they find that, the doubt starts to fade. It starts to be replaced with more assurance that, maybe I don't know everything, but the path will continue to reveal itself if I'm just willing to listen and, and respond. So it teaches that purpose is not something that we find outside of ourselves. It's something that we remember as we go. This essence helps us trust in that natural sense of being led to something and stop forcing decisions. Stop just, let's just try everything.
Right.
Right. And it's like, to me, it helps kind of give you that more central focus on, maybe I don't know exactly how it's going to go, but I really feel called to like study this thing.
Yeah.
And to really kind of, I think it's very balancing, as somebody that is a very like multifaceted human being, I literally have like 10 jobs, but at this stage and through, working with essences and my natal chart and all this, it's like I'm able to weave all those threads together really coherently. And I'm like, oh my God, this is all connected and all of it energizes me, instead of feeling like, well, do I want to be an astrologer, or do I want to be a homeopath, or do I want to be a podcaster, or do I want to be an artist? Do I want to be a poet? What if all of those roads actually meet somewhere?
Yeah.
Right. And it was through wild oat that I was really able to kind of bridge all that. And instead of like feeling like, oh my gosh, I'm spending 3 years learning homeopathy and like that's making me, no, it's like, no, that's part of the building process.
Right.
And it's like, I can trust in that direction. I can trust in the time I'm investing into that and know that it actually is a part of the whole story. It's just, being satisfied with where we're at, instead of saying, well, that's 3 years, so I'm not going to do it. It's like, no. That's a part of it.
Yeah.
Like it's not a distraction. It's something I'm committing myself to, instead of trying to learn 100 things at the same time.
Right.
Because that seems like hard to focus on.
To say the least.
Right. So some keynotes or symptoms would be restlessness or dissatisfaction despite external success, frequent indecisions about personal or professional goals, feeling that life lacks purpose or meaningful direction, frustration at not knowing which path to follow, anxiety or unease about the future, difficulty committing to choices or long-term plans. The positive potential here would be clear sense of life purpose and direction, confidence in making decisions and choosing paths, fulfillment and engagement in meaningful work and personal goals, inner certainty and calm regarding life's direction. So it concludes our episode on the fear remedies and the uncertainty remedies.
I think there's a lot in there that people could relate to, and I'm sure that that'll be the case with all of the essences. But hopefully you found some as you went and you're like, oh my goodness, that would be very helpful in my day-to-day life. And, the goal of the episodes here is to give you a little bit further insight so that you can reach out and buy some of these remedies and start using them for yourself and to help with some of these things. Some of this, especially the hopelessness and things like that you think there's no cure for, or the fear and all of these things. And so hopefully that some of these resonated and you're like, okay, yeah, I need to go back and make a list. And by the end of this 3-part series, you'll have, maybe you just buy the whole set and have them on hand, which is pretty much what we've done. And as things come up, you're able to tackle them and face them head on in a natural, healthy way, and to help heal yourself and those that you love.
Yeah. And I also feel like just learning about them, not only does it help me kind of trust the process, but it's like I'm able to give myself more grace knowing that some of these states, which feel more isolating, feels more, lonesome. I feel more depressed, but then I'm like, this is actually a normal part of being human. Like having all these complex emotions and all these states that we're moving through, they're very natural. Yeah. And it's okay to be there. And it's also okay to have some help from your plant allies. Yep. It's okay to reach out and, have a consultation with somebody and say, this is what I'm experiencing in this moment. And, sometimes it is through connecting with others that we're able to kind of see ourselves more clearly and just say, oh, this isn't actually a reflection of who I am, like this dark state. This is a phase that I'm going through. Yeah. And I feel like it's very helpful in those moments, especially when we're in that kind of gore state where we're like, where's the light? Yeah. It's like,
this is never going to end or get better.
Right. And it's just been really helpful. And, financially, I bought them pretty much one at a time over the past 7 years. Yeah. If I had the means, I would have just bought the whole kit right out the gate. But it is okay to kind of deal with them as they come. Yeah. We don't have to stock up on everything. There's definitely remedies I don't know if I've ever actually personally needed. Yeah. But
that's kind of what I was saying. I'm sure there's a couple that you resonated with as you listen. You're like, oh, that's the issue that I've been struggling with most.
Right. Or you may go into that state in the future and be like, oh, Astral randomly talked about this.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. What should I do for this irrational fear of bats? I need some help. What was it that Astral said? And you can go through it.
That's funny because I did have this random fear of bats after reading a news story about this art teacher, just a bat flying in and biting her, and she died of rabies. And so the other day I was just playing outside and I was like, let's go inside.
The bats are out. We've got to go in.
That's so funny. That just came up for me.
I just randomly pulled that out. But there you go. And that's what you would know that you wouldn't go back in.
Right. And there's support there. Yeah. We don't have to just
get you some Mimulus.
Get stuck in fear. Yeah. Because it can be so limiting and just put us in like freeze mode. Yeah. And no one wants to live like that. Right. To be scared to go out into crowds or to leave their house or, scared to go to sleep because they're having night terrors or so scared that they, when their family leaves the house and
that they're just terrified the whole time.
Yeah, so the fear remedies to me are huge support, and I think everybody moves through them. The uncertainty remedies, I think, are more kind of specific to points in our life. But then there are some people that may have struggled with that, the whole time. So,
well, like the wild oat, like unsure of what to do, and maybe you're stuck in a job that you hate, and you're like, what do I do with my life? What do I do next? Well, get you some wild oat and start taking it regularly. Right. And I think the idea is that sooner or later, if you take it regularly, it will start to come to you and you'll start to align with your path.
Right. Start to remember what was your intention before even taking that job you hated.
Right.
Right. Was it to make money so that you could travel? Mm-hmm. And now you're stuck at it because you feel like you've lost what was their initial intention. It may have not to work at that company till you died.
Right. Were you supposed to create things? Were you supposed to do?
Yeah. Right. And sometimes we do have a dream that we want and we kind of forget we forget. And so I think it is important to have a remedy to kind of help us feel recentered and bring us back into that initial alignment that I think at points in our lives we do have that sense.
Yeah.
And we're like, this is it. And then life happens and it's like, well, we got to pay the mortgage and now I need a new tire. And so we do things that are not
It'll
really
never end.
in alignment with what our soul wants because it's appropriate in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's necessary, but it's also important to remember not to get lost
Right.
in that, that material, mundane kind of expression of life. Like that there is something deeper than just making money and just barely surviving. And, that's where Wild Oat definitely comes in.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you so much
Yeah.
for being here today. And you're going to be coming back on for the next 2 episodes. For part 2, we will be exploring remedies that support loneliness, oversensitivity, and disconnection from the present moment. So until then, thank you all so much for tuning in. Check us out next time on the Astral Hour.